storyteller is Benjamin James Rexroad, and he has no title for his.
So as Kyle mentioned, we went out west on a 6-week road trip. We spent all but 10 days living and sleeping in our car. And we put on 11,000 miles actually, because we kind of kept doing loops around the West. But this story comes from a time that we were in Seattle. So we had just stopped in Spokane, Washington. And we had some of the best sushi I have ever had. And it was one of those places where you go in and you order the sushi. Well, you basically just say, like, I have, $25 to spend. And then they give you stuff. But the one question they asked was, do you want something that's alive? I said, no, please. But now I'd be like, yes, please, bring me the live thing. I'd totally eat it. So we drive out of Spokane, and we stop at a rest stop, and we go to sleep for the night. We wake up the next morning, and we drive the rest of the way to Seattle. We get there around evening time. It is 7, 8 o'clock at night. It's nighttime. And of course, like Seattle, it's raining, because that's the way it has to be. And so we had just had a tire blowout in Montana. So we just had a brand new set of tires that actually caused a fight between Kyle and I, because he just goes into places and says, "Whatever you say, sir, take my money." Yeah, we get into a lot of fights about that. I'm like, well, Kyle, did we have to get that thing that man was trying to sell you? Well, no, but he said it would be really good. Sure. So we had a brand new set of tires, but they were super slick. For some reason, driving in this expressway into Seattle, we keep almost dying from just like car accident, because it's so slick. So we finally make it into the city proper, and we had just gotten a GPS phone, or smartphone with GPS on it, and we said, and so we just put in Jazz Club and just had them take us to the nearest jazz joint, which was a super swanky place, a little bit like very aesthetically like Square Bar, if you're familiar with that, in Highland Square. And there are some jazz performers, they're playing, it's a quartet, and they were not very good. But the drunker you got, the better they became. And so we kind of at some point are like, let's blow this joint. So we walk down the street and we come to a bar that had just opened. It was like that night was their opening night. So we go in there, we're hanging out. The bartender looks a little like Morticia Adams if she was heavier set and had this beautiful black polka dot dress, her hair up in pigtails, tattoos all up and down her arms. She was really cool. And she told us that we needed to drink the local beer, which was Rainier, which turns out is just a really pretentious way to say Rainier, and it's their $1 PBR beer out there. But we were convinced that Rainier was the best beer in Seattle. And so we're drinking that, and then every hour on the hour, it's $1 shots. So, of course, we continue drinking those, and we start talking to this guy. And for those of you guys, for some of this story to make sense, it's really important to know that Kyle and I, we have a sort of, open relationship. So we're hanging out with this guy, and he is, like, keeping up with us, drink after drink, we're $1 beer here, $1 shot here. We were drinking together for like 5 hours. Hanging out, these people, and there was the best food there. It was a quesadilla made with some homemade Cholula sauce. It was wonderful. And at some point, the guy, we're talking, Kyle and I seems like we're gonna get lucky. So our car is packed to the brim. Like, we have a hatchback, it's totally full, all the way up to the front seats, just enough for us to recline. And so we have to get this guy home if we're gonna, hang out. And and so he had to sit on my lap while I drove him home. And we get to his place, and his name's Juan, and Juan starts to get really sick, and he starts to basically just pass out in my arms. So we pull over by his place, we finally find it. We pull over by his place, and as soon as I open the door, vomit everywhere. Gets on the car floor, gets out the car door, and we're like, oh man, what are we supposed to do with this guy? And he's like, okay, I'm feeling better. He starts to walk home, face plants on the ground, and doesn't move. We're like, what the hell are we supposed to do with this guy? And, we were debating, well, no one knows us around here. We could just take off. Because, that's the thing to do. But we were like, no. No, we gotta stay. We gotta make sure this guy. So we go over to him, we give him some water, we help him continue to vomit some more. He continues, and it's a constant stream at this point. And so I'm like, I don't know what to do here. So I go into his wallet. And I'm like, okay, maybe there's an address, because I'm not sure which of these houses is his house. I'm not sure what to do, who to call. So I open his wallet, and it turns out his name is Alfonso, and he is only 17. Oh. And we're like, oh my God, what have we done? So, we're just freaking out here. We're like, oh my, we can't even we're feeling like we can't even call an ambulance or anything right now, because we're gonna be in trouble. So we just continue to take care of him, and we sit with him for hours that night, just helping him vomit and helping him drink water. We tried to feed him. He didn't want any food. So at some point, he becomes conscious enough where we can walk him, he guides between us. We're carrying him, and he's like, okay, this is my house. So we basically take him and put him on the porch like a present. And we hang out to make sure that he eventually goes inside, but we're hanging out on the on the sidewalk, we're nobody's business. So finally he gets up and he goes inside. And at some point in the night, he had given me his phone number. So I said, okay, I'm going to, we call him the next day, and it comes to find out that he was actually in I don't exactly know, it was a group home for children that had just were transitioning out of foster care, essentially. And he was alive, so that was very positive. But we never made contact with Alfonso again. And there's really no moral to that story, except maybe don't drink with strangers.
That quesadilla really was the best quesadilla I've ever had. When we were actually on the road, Benjamin mentioned our tire popped. So before that happened, we had been...
Okay, the tire popped because I swerved to miss a bunny, and it exploded.
The bunny or the tire?
The bunny did not explode. The bunny was fine. The bunny was saved, and Alfonso was saved. Everything was good. Our tire was not. We were in Yellowstone, which, of course, that's a national park. It's very dark. There are no lights. And we had just finished up a hike, because we love going on hikes. And so we're leaving the park and listening to Anything Ghost, which is a podcast where people submit ghost stories. And I fell asleep listening to that. Some pretty creepy ghost stories. The next thing I remember was waking up to, oh my God! And our tire popping. in my dream, we died. And maybe I am dead. Maybe you are all. Maybe we are all dead. Who knows?